6:09. I did indicate before that we're waiting for one or two officials. They arrive, so it means that we can start with the meeting. Let me ask, I'm Dan Plato. I'm the chairperson of the Social Development Standing Committee. May I quickly go through the paces and ask everyone to introduce themselves as well. Our visitors from National Department, the NCOP, can you just use your mic and officially introduce yourself, which department you represent? The white button, that's right. We start with you first. You may.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. I am Luyanda Mchochisa from the Department of Social Development, Legal Services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members, government officials from various departments. My name is Nelly Swatsekiso. I am from the National Department of Social Development, Child Protection. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Yvonne Makubedu from Social Development, Offence and Vulnerable Children Directorate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The gentleman in the house at the back, please.
Yeah, good morning, Honorable Chair and honorable members. My name is Kosnati Lala from National Department of Social Development, Legal Services. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. May I ask any National Department member, please? I see a familiar face online. You may introduce
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to all the members of the Committee on Social Development in the Western Cape. Let me also greet the officials from DSD and the officials from the Western Cape Legislature. My name is Marentia Gillian. I am the chairperson of the Select Committee of Health and Social Services in the National Council of Provinces and am a permanent delegate from the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Appreciate it. Let me just get our local Provincial Department of Social Development officials to introduce themselves as well, please.
Good morning, Honourable Chair. Good morning, members. I'm Najwa Talib. I'm the Programme Manager for Foster Care at the Provincial Department of Social Development, Cape Town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Honourable Chair. Good morning, members. I'm in Saladonis, DSD Provincial Office, Child and Protection.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, Honourable Chair. Good morning, all the honourable members. My name is Tembekile Kwakwini. I'm also from the Provincial DSD. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and members. I'm Charles Jordan. I'm the Chief Director for Children, Families and Vulnerable Groups from the Department of Social Development, Western Cape. I would also like at this stage just to render apology for our Minister, Fernandez, that's having a meeting this morning with the Premier in some other site visit. And then our HOD, he's busy with legal counsel for a High Court case. So I do render apology on behalf of the two of them. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lionel van der Skeef, Department of the Premier, Legal Services.
Thank you so much, Mr. van der Skeef. To all of you, thank you. Let me get to our members. Please introduce yourself.
Morning, Chair. Morning, Chair. Christopher Fry.
Thank you.
Member.
Online, Member Philander.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, all honourable members, departmental officials and procedural staff. My name is Wendy Kaiser Philander and I'm a permanent member of the Standing Committee for Social Development in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. And any other member? one or two members did indicate they will be a minute or two late. We're eagerly awaiting for them to get online. Let me get all the local staff briefly in-house online just to quickly introduce themselves as well. Let's start with the gentleman down there in the house.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Daza. I'm the part of procedural staff from the Provincial Parliament for Social Development.
Next to me.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members. My name is Nomonde Jamte, Procedural Officer for Health and Social Development.
Our officials online, please do the necessary.
Morning, Chairperson. My name is Romeo Maastorp. I'm the legal advisor to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Morning, Chair. My name is Temba Keso. I'm the manager PEO at the WCPP. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No one else. Okay. The purpose, let me get immediately into the purpose of the meeting. I think that's very, very important for me to do that. Purpose of the meeting is a briefing by National Department of Social Development on the Children's Amendment Bill. A very important bill, prominently publicized all over the news, media, and that sort of thing. There's a lot of interest into the bill, and it is important from our side as a provincial department and government that we focus on the bill as well. So once again, I want to welcome you as our guest this morning. So honored to have you with us. We appreciate it. And I will immediately give the floor to you to immediately start present to us with regard to the bill.
Good morning, Chairperson. Before the department, let me thank you and your members and staff for taking this bill very seriously and give the opportunity to the department to brief the Western Cape Provincial Parliament on the amendment to the Children's Act. First of all, Chairperson, let me just briefly, the National Assembly has concluded their work and the select committee was then briefed last week by the department, and we are now on our 6-week cycle. And that's the reason why we are here today to introduce the amendments to the bill to the Provincial Parliament so that your process can start. From outside, Chairperson, we have extended the time frame to the 1st of November for the negotiation mandates. And then on the 8th of November, we want to have the final mandates from all provinces so that we can conclude the bill from outside in the NCOP. Because our deadline for this bill is the 27th of November, it must be finalized. But also, Chairperson, allow me to pass also my sincere condolences to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament at the loss of Honorable Lorraine, who was also the chairperson of the Social Development Portfolio when I was still serving in the Western Cape Parliament. Please convey my sincere condolences to her family. Thank you, Chairperson. I will now hand over to the Department of Social Development.
Before doing that, thank you so much for the kind words, for the input, and also for the expressing of your condolences. We really appreciate that, Honourable Member. Now, the National Department of Social Development may present.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and good morning once again, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, and also colleagues present here. As indicated earlier, my name is Luyanda Mchochisa from Legal Services, Department of Social Development, Pretoria. The purpose for being here today is to present to the Western Cape Provincial Legislature the Children's Amendment Bill, which seeks to respond to the comprehensive legal solution relating to foster care challenges as ordered by the North Gauteng High Court. You will recall, honorable members, that in 2017, the North Gauteng High Court ordered the Minister of Social Development to come up with a comprehensive legal solution to challenges facing foster care. In fact, if I may go directly, the order, the part that is relevant for this particular purpose, the court had said it is declared that the delay by the first respondent, being the Minister of Social Development, the circumstances in preparing and introducing before Parliament amending legislation to produce a comprehensive legal solution in respect of the foster care system is unconstitutional, unlawful, and invalid. And the delay in putting in place the necessary mechanisms, structures, and resources to ensure that the foster care system operates in a sustainable and effective manner is also unconstitutional, unlawful, and invalid. And the declarations of invalidity, as indicated herein, were suspended for a period of 24 months from the date of the order, and that the first respondent is directed within 15 months, that is 15 months from the end of 2017, to prepare and introduce before Parliament the necessary amendments to the Children's Act and also the Social Assistance Amendment Act of 2014 to produce a comprehensive legal solution to foster care. So the purpose of this bill is to respond to that court order, to come up with a comprehensive legal solution to foster care because of a huge backlog that existed at the time, and also the issue of foreseeing challenges if we proceed without coming up with this legal solution. Just to give a little bit of a background with regard to the bill itself, when this order came in 2017, the department was already in the process of developing the Children's Act, that is the Children's Amendment Bill. During that time, the bill contained around about 146 clauses. And out of those 146 clauses, there were also these for the foster care clauses and other clauses, because it was a comprehensive development of the Children's Amendment Bill. There was also a pronouncement by the President some time later to indicate that early childhood development must be moved from social development to the Department of Basic Education. So there were also clauses that related to ECD in that bill, which were removed by the Portfolio Committee to be considered separately as that the function was being transferred to the Department of Basic Education. And now the remaining clauses contain foster care clauses and the rest of other child protection clauses. There was also an idea later, because there has been some delays during the processing of this particular legislation. Delays in the sense that there was a change of administration in 2019 when we were busy processing the legislation. And as there was change of administration, so the development was interrupted in some way. And after that, again, there was COVID. The Parliament had to stop in terms of moving around the country doing public consultations. And because of that, we found ourselves in a situation where we were very much close to the end of the expiry of the North Gauteng High Court order. And the Parliament took a decision, that is the Portfolio Committee, that out of the rest of the provisions in the bill, let us just extract those clauses that are relevant to foster care, and the rest of the other clauses will be dealt with at a later stage as a committee bill. Hence, we extracted 12 of these clauses. So you will notice that in terms of the bill that is before you, you've got those 14 clauses. 2 of them came in as a consequence when we're dealing with that, and the last one would be the short title. So the bill before you has got 15 clauses. Those 15 clauses are only focusing on foster care issues, and the rest of the clauses will be dealt with at a later stage by the committee as a committee bill. So the department identified these 12 clauses from the All-Inclusive Children's Amendment Bill, which directly contributes to the comprehensive legal solution as directed by the North Gauteng High Court. These clauses provide for a legal framework that directly addresses the identified foster care challenges resulting to the North Gauteng High Court's directive. They seek to strengthen the provisions of the Children's Act, that is 38 of 2005, and that they are aimed at providing quality child protection system, of which foster care is component thereof. These clauses are in the bill that is before you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, and they include the definitions, also include provisions that put structures and mechanisms in place to deal with foster care, and also the diversified access to legal mechanisms for the care of children, and also the determination of children who are at risk or in need of care and protection, and also the issue of the court processes to make decisions in order to determine if a child is in need of care and protection. They also include the management of foster care orders, the extension of foster care orders, and supervision of child care placements. They also revolve around the clarification of the role of caregivers within a cluster foster care scheme. Because this will contribute towards the comprehensive legal solution, thus minimizing confusion regarding the responsibilities of these caregivers and making a distinction between the foster care parents who are not in a cluster foster care scheme and ones in a cluster foster care scheme. So this bill also streamlines the cluster foster care provisions, thus diversifying the foster care interventions, thus contributing to the comprehensive legal solution. And clause 1 of this particular bill seeks to relate to such in terms of the definition that you would find in the definitions in clause 1 of this particular bill relating to the cluster foster care scheme. Clause 1 again provides, amongst other things, the definition of an orphan. You will recall that in the Principal Act, the definition of an orphan is the traditional definition where we have a child who has lost both parents. And the department has recognized that there are instances where children are children of single parents. And in that way, there is no second parent who may have, been.
You may proceed, no problem.
Okay, all right. There is no other parent who may have been who may have been deceased under the circumstances, and therefore this child has got only one parent. So this new bill now recognizes that even if you have lost one parent, you'll still be regarded as an orphan for the purposes of accessing services, foster care services in social development. And what this bill also has to take into account is to say this must be read together with the Social Assistance Amendment Act. You will recall, honorable members, that as I indicated earlier, that there are 2 pieces of legislation that were earmarked for review based on the North Gauteng High Court order. We have already finalized the Social Assistance Amendment Act. It was passed in 2020 and it came into force in June this year. And I may also tell this Honorable House that children who are orphaned under the circumstances that I am explaining now are already accessing what we call the top-up grant. They have been diverted from the normal foster care system, that is the new applications, and now are getting the top-up grant, because the understanding is that not necessarily all orphans are children who are in need of care and protection, because others are with the relatives, families, and all that. So this bill does recognize that, and it has to be read together with the Social Assistance Amendment Act. Again, this bill provides for various forms of care for children. It's a little bit tricky because that one has been modified. So, but it's still the same thing. It's just that pages may have been changed. Okay, but it's saying the same thing. Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chair. My apologies for that. So this bill provides for various forms of care for children. It addresses the mechanisms that are required by caregivers to care for children who are orphaned or abandoned that may not necessarily require a foster care placement, purely because they may require a legal mechanism to enable them to make decisions for children in their care. So this bill provides for a legal mechanism that's contributing to the comprehensive legal solution as ordered by the North Gauteng High Court. It also makes issues of guardianship more accessible, serving the best interests of the child, as jurisdiction of the courts, that is the Children's Court, is now extended in terms of this bill to look at issues of guardianship. You will recall that some of the challenges that we may face from time to time is that the issue of guardianship is very expensive, because one has to apply to the High Court, and it's very much expensive and time consuming. But for the purposes of addressing that defect, this bill introduces an introduction into the jurisdiction of the Children's Court, so that the Children's Court can also deal with such applications. And once such applications are dealt with, those children will have guardians and will therefore not be foster children and fall off from the system, thus reducing the figures that clog the system in the foster care in the long run. So it also seeks to put a control mechanism to ensure that the required standard for provision of child protection services is achieved, in that way contributing to the comprehensive legal solution as required. It also contributes to a legislative response to a challenge required relating to the required structure for the desirable child protection system. It is a required mechanism for responding to the demand for quality child protection services that include foster care. And then clause 4 of this particular bill is couched in such a way that it takes into account the issues of quality assurance as indicated. It also, that is, this bill also seeks to address the systemic challenges that we have by providing adequate resources. We'll recall that one of the challenges that we are facing is the lack of social workers, because of social workers being a scarce commodity in the country, who are needed to deal with this particular issue. And then there's a huge demand for these social workers. So if now we divert children, as I indicated, from the foster care system to the top-up grant as contemplated in the Social Assistance Amendment Act, which is currently in force, then those figures will be reduced and the work of social workers will be less. So that is intended to put in place the required protection mechanism and structure to maximize compliance to the Children's Act that has not been adequately resourced in terms of the human capacity. So clause 5 seeks to address that particular issue. Furthermore, the establishment of these child protection units will strengthen the comprehensive social work assessments and the provision of responsive prevention and early intervention services. Thus minimizing the need for children being placed in foster care. Because the whole purpose of this bill is to ensure that we do not have as many children in the foster care system as that clogs the system. So it is a mechanism that is designed to ensure that there are other child protection mechanisms that can deal with other category of children so that they don't fall within this the system. So clause 6 is amended to cater for such a situation by providing for unaccompanied migrant children who may also fall prey of human trafficking or be offered for sale by those who are expected to take care of them. Some of the clauses, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, seek to limit the placement of orphaned and abandoned children in the foster care of family members. As I indicated earlier, that not all children who are orphaned are actually children who are in need of care and protection. They can be with relatives, they can be with families, and in that way they may not necessarily fall within the foster care system, hence diverting them to other child protection systems. Clause 7 strengthens the issue of family placements. Such placements are partly resulting from non-comprehensive social work assessments as prescribed in Regulation 55.1. So in a way, the work of social workers in that regard will be reduced, and that is taking into account the scarcity of the skill for social workers. So these clauses also contribute to the comprehensive legal solution by addressing a symptom, which, as I indicated, the lack of social workers, as I indicated earlier, in order to ensure that the systemic challenge through the establishment of child protection units is designed for putting a specialized child protection model as a systemic mechanism for provision of child protection services. And such an undertaking will strengthen the social workers' responsibilities relating to children's court processes to determine whether a child is in need of care and protection. Again, Honorable Chair, the bill is also mindful of the fact that not only because a child is residing with a family member or so will be excluded from the system altogether in terms of other benefits that may accrue to an orphaned child who is with a family member or with a relative. So that particular child will still benefit from other benefits that would necessarily accrue under the circumstances. So it also seeks to complement the amendment of the Social Assistance Act, the Amendment Act that was passed in 2020. So all the provisions that are being put before yourself, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members today, need to be read together with the provisions of the just passed Social Assistance Amendment Act in order to make sense at the end of the day. Again, Honorable Chair, these clauses seek to contribute to the decision-making process as part of a comprehensive legal solution, because you will recall that social workers have got a duty to investigate whether a child is in need of care and protection, and part of that investigation requires a comprehensive social work assessment as indicated, and this is usually when the courts make a decision in terms of whether a child is in need of care and protection. So this clause in the bill seeks to deal with that. There is also a need to clarify the role of the caregivers within a cluster foster care scheme, as I indicated earlier in the definitions, that there is the confusion in terms of the cluster foster care scheme, in terms of the roles and responsibilities, which has been cleared off, and that once that has been cleared off, it will be easy to understand who has to do what under these circumstances. So this clarification will promote the compliance with the provision of diversification of the scope of foster care services that are supported by the comprehensive cluster foster care regulations, and compliance with these regulations, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, will be supported by the clauses to these amendments. Again, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, this bill seeks to address the mechanisms as required. If you recall the second slide that I had there relating to the North Gauteng High Court order, the mechanisms that are required by caregivers to care for children that are orphaned or abandoned and who may not necessarily require the issue of foster care placement. And the bill proposes an alternative that at least these children may be offered for adoption as opposed to foster care. In that way, the numbers for children who are expected to be on foster care will be reduced, because what we are dealing with here is to ensure that we don't have hundreds of thousands of children in the foster care system, and also understanding that the foster care system is quite intersectoral in nature, and it's not only about social development. There are courts that are involved and there are various role players. So the lesser the numbers we have, the better for the department, and also ensuring that there is no future backlog. Again, honorable members, these amendments also provide another dimension to address the mechanisms required by caregivers for children, as I indicated, who are orphaned. And they thus provide a legal mechanism contributing to the comprehensive legal solution for foster care by reducing the demand for unnecessary foster care placements and serving the best interest of the child at the end of the day. It must be noted again, Honorable Chair, that one of the major contributory factors in the foster care system is the challenge that is very much systemic in nature, which results to social workers non-compliance, because there is a need from time to time to extend these foster care orders. You will recall that these foster care orders are usually for a period of 2 years, and then social workers have to go and investigate whether these children are still in need of care and protection for the purposes of extending them for a further period of 2 years. And that work itself is very much comprehensive, and it requires a lot of resources. So this is being addressed in terms of this particular bill. There is also, and that must also be read together with the unbundling of the systemic challenges, because Section 48 of the Children's Act, which is the principal act under circumstances, has to kick in. And Section 48 empowers the presiding officers to look at issues of extending the foster care orders, and that has to be read with the other provisions of the Act 159 in particular. So the unbundling of these systemic challenges will enable the presiding officers to extend the alternative care orders in a manner that is in line with Section 48, and will thus contribute to the comprehensive legal solution. Again, Honorable Chair, part of the challenges experienced with foster care relates to this 2-year period, as I indicated, which operates until the child turns 18 at the end of the day. So if Section 48 of the Children's Act is being implemented as it is today, it will also assist in ensuring that at the end of the day, the power that the presiding officers have is utilized effectively in order to ensure that there is no backlog at the end of the day. This must also be taken into account with the strengthening of Section 186 provisions, which create a conducive mechanisms for presiding officers to begin to issue more Section 186 orders, which result to less foster care orders, thus requiring the periodic extension of 2 years. And then Clause 14 read with clause 13 of this particular act will read in order to deal with that particular situation. On the other hand, the strengthening of section 186 as contemplated in clause 13 and 14 seeks to make a provision for MECs to establish well-resourced child protection units and quality assurance units, which will contribute towards the comprehensive legal solution at the end of the day. It will do so through a legislative requirement to address these systemic challenges by providing adequate resources. That is the issue of social workers as a case in point, and other resources like the offices, which are much of a problem in other areas in the country, because one would need to interview these children, and they would require offices, but these offices are not in existence in other places. So this particular amendment seeks to address that shortcoming as well. Furthermore, the establishment of these child protection units will strengthen the provision of prevention and early intervention services, thus minimizing the need for these children being placed in foster care. In that way, the number of foster care cases will drop. Again, Honorable Chair, I must indicate that there is also a need to ensure that Section 186 is implemented properly in terms of this particular proposed piece of legislation, so that if it is applied as it is expected to be applied, when this proposal gets to be law or one day, then the issue of backlog will be reduced, and the number of cases that will be in the system will also decline. That is the purpose of this particular legislation, to ensure that the backlog that we have is reduced, and at the same time moving towards the future. There isn't a possibility for a backlog, because this bill seeks to create other mechanisms and other alternative child protection mechanisms to deal with the issue of children who are in need of care and protection. Moving out of that, Honorable Chair, we will be also looking at the contentious issues around this, because it's normal with any piece of legislation that there would be contentious issues, and that issue would relate around what we would call clause 10 or section 21. Not clause 10 of this bill before you, good selves, Honorable Chair, but clause 10 of the bill as introduced in Parliament. Remember, I had said the bill had 146 clauses, and out of those 146 clauses, we extracted 12 in order to form part of this bill. And then there was a debate that maybe they should have been 13. We should have also included clause 10, which is section 21. And we had indicated as a department that it is not advisable to include that particular provision at present, because that particular clause then has its own other dynamics, which may delay us. Because remember, we've got a deadline by the end of November, and that those dynamics will want us to debate further than the end of this year, which at the end of the day will make it impossible for us to meet the deadline. For an example, clause 1, as a brainchild of the department had indicated, that is section 21, clause 10 that I'm referring to. The department had wanted to equate the rights of unmarried fathers with those of the married fathers in terms of parental rights and responsibilities, which is a good thing to do so. This was in line with section 9 of the Constitution, to say that the Constitution says that no one may be unfairly discriminated based on marital status. That was the intention for this particular clause. But when we moved around the country regarding the public hearings, it appeared that most stakeholders, or some stakeholders to be precise, want more than what Section 21 provides for, or what Clause 10 provides for. In that way, they want issues of automatic custody. And we are saying, with regard to automatic custody, we cannot make it an issue in the Children's Act, because that has to be determined by the courts as to who gets custody, maybe during divorce or some other proceedings of that particular nature. So it's not something that we can put here automatically. They also want issues of automatic visitation rights during divorce cases, and which cases we are also saying is for the courts to determine those. We cannot have a Children's Act that says whenever there is a divorce case, a father must automatically have custody of children. So that is what we are confronted with. These are the dynamics I'm referring to with regard to that particular clause. Hence, we said we cannot at this stage put it as part of this. We need to debate that further at a later stage. And again, the traditional leadership was also involved as we were presenting, to indicate that yes, we see the issue of automatic rights and responsibilities of unmarried fathers, but unfortunately, from a traditional point of view, that cannot just happen. One needs to first pay damages, and that is the first act of parental responsibility, to acknowledge pregnancy and pay damages, and thereafter we can talk. So because of such dynamics, that would also need us to reclassify the bill, because initially this is not a bill that was intended to be tabled before the House of Traditional Leaders. It is a bill that excluded that process. Now, because there is such introduction of cases, it would need us to have the reclassification of the bill, and this bill now be presented before the House of Traditional Leaders to also look at those issues, and also to talk to the Department of Justice as well around the issues of custody, visitation rights, and all that. And that would be time consuming. So it's not that we are downplaying the importance of that particular parental right and responsibility, but we are saying time-wise, it is a little bit problematic because it needs further engagement. And there are also issues about maternal versus paternal favoritism, where other male parents are saying when the mother dies, the children are often taken to the mother's side and they don't go to the father's side. You know, there is so much that is involved. So in other words, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, I'm saying that clause is very important, but unfortunately not for the purposes of this particular session. It's still going to be considered because the rest of the other clauses, as I said, there were 146 clauses in the original bill, is still going to be dealt with at that stage where all these stakeholders I'm referring to will be called upon to have their input. I think I must pause there, Honorable Chair. That was my parting note. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation. We appreciate that. I just note some of the members' arrival. Thank you very much, honorable members, for being here. I note some members of the public with us. They walk in, but they follow what is happening. Welcome. Good to see you. May I, at this point in time, ask our department if there's any issue you want to raise, you want to bring under the presenter's attention?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I think at this stage, we as the Western Cape Department of Social Development support actually these amendments. There's various reasons for why we're supporting it, because this is issues that we as the province had with administrative processes regarding specifically Section 186, regarding children being placed by families, and a whole administrative process that our social workers need to go through that put so much pressure on them that they do not get to other child protection services. So we support that very well. I will give my colleagues opportunity also if they would like to give some comments. But also saying that with these amendments, we as a province, Western Cape Province, with specific the clauses, we have already put structures in place in our department to deal with foster care exclusively. So we've got, for example, a foster care unit specializing in foster care with Ms. Talib being our manager in that unit at our head office. And then we've got about 144 social workers that's dealing exclusively just with foster care cases, specializing in that, so they don't do any other work besides foster care cases. We also, the last thing I would like to say about how we are institutionally prepared for this is the fact that we've got, National has given a foster care web-based tool system, a tracking system. So we're one of the few provinces that uploaded over 57,000 of our children's cases onto the system. And every Sunday night, the system gives us indication of when court orders is going to expire in the next 3 months, which gives our social workers in the Western Cape now the opportunity to be prepared with a system giving you a warning sign. These children's court orders are going to be expired. But yeah, so in general, from my side specifically, we do support these amendments. It's very positive for us. It's going to alleviate our workloads, not neglecting the rights of the child. It will also give us the opportunity with children that's been placed, or that's with families, to look at early intervention and preventative work to strengthen that. So yeah, so it's a good support from our side. The director and the team, would you like to make any comments? Chair, if you allow us, or would you like to rather move on?
Please, you may, if there's any input from your side.
Thank you, Chief Director. Honourable Chair, members, yeah, from my side as well, I can only echo what our Chief Director has reiterated, is that we definitely support all the clauses that would contribute to the legal solutions to foster care. So the only other additions that I can make is just to say that I love the fact that our children's courts are given more jurisdiction in terms of their powers, that they can actually deal with guardianship. I love that part. It's very positive, because a lot of our children just were forced to come into the foster care system because they couldn't afford to go to the high courts to make those applications, particularly in children that are orphaned or abandoned. And it further also extended powers to the children's court in terms of unaccompanied minors, which is really positive for children that are from asylum seeking, and also that of refugee status. So that is really positive. And I also can just reiterate that our systems are in place in terms of quality assurance. So the Western Cape is prepared with regards to that, because we have our quality assurance processes called canalization services, as well as our M&E teams. Also, with regards to the diversion, at the moment we have 38,000 children in foster care in the Western Cape, and the CSG top-up grant will definitely create a diversion, and we can already see that. We won't be able to take our children out of the system at the moment. They will remain in the system, but in 2 or 3 years' time, we will definitely be able to see how foster care numbers have reduced. Because our children that are reaches the age of 18, if they're no longer schooling, that they will then be leaving the care system, and that's when we will start seeing the numbers drop. Just the only other, and the fact that adoption will become the first option for care, that is a really good solution. Just one aspect in terms of clause 10, I just wanted to raise and maybe just get a little bit more clarification, where the courts will have the powers then to issue interim care orders of 6 months, which could be a possible obstacle in terms of the extension of foster care orders, and create a backlog, because that is what has happened, particularly in the Western Cape, where our presiding officers, our children's court have issued a high number of interim care orders. So that is the only concern for me, because definitely not always in the best interest of the child, but also it does contribute to the foster care backlog. That is the only inputs I have to make. Thank you, colleagues.
I think there's notification of the input. I'm not going to ask you to respond to that. I don't think it's necessary. Am I right? Okay, you are happy with that, as long as you know what's been said. Let me get to our honourable members. If there's any input from their side, any comment, even a question, or are you also happy with what is presented to you? You heard our department's officials' responses. Honourable Member Philander.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, just a short question from my side. In terms of implementing this amendments in its entirety, just perhaps an input into the resource and budgeting and of social workers in its entirety. I hear the Western Cape making mention of their dedicated social workers in terms of foster care, and that's good to hear. Also granting the support for these amendments, Chairperson, but just how, if we want to effective and efficiently implement, how does that affect the current corps, and what is the department's the national department's plan going forward in terms of social workers? Thank you, Chair.
Would you like to respond to that one briefly?
Thank you, Honourable Philander, on that comment that you've just made. I think that was the reason I raised my hand after Advocate Luyanda presented, because I needed to indicate that as much as we talk about the establishment of the child protection units, and that must be fully resourced, we are in cognizance of the fact that the country has got shortage of social workers. We applaud Western Cape for pushing, fully resourcing when it comes to foster care services. However, we are saying that the child protection units, they would be dealing with quite a number of services, because we're saying that for us to prevent children moving into foster care, we have to strengthen our prevention and early intervention services. But we cannot strengthen prevention and early intervention services if we are not aware of the communities that we are servicing, the vulnerabilities that children are exposed to. In Western Cape, for example, substance abuse, gangsterism, it's one of the challenges, child neglect. Now there's an issue of teenage pregnancy as well. So it means that those children need to be identified early so that, protective services is provided to those children so that they don't move into foster care. But if the environment is not conducive for those children to be in that environment, then they move into foster care. But we are saying that cluster foster care also needs to be considered, because it has come to be very expensive to run child and youth care centers. Just to cite an example, per child, per unit, a unit trust, a unit cost is 4,000. That is quite expensive when you compare to foster care services. We acknowledge the shortage of social workers. What at national we have done is to actually do capacity assessment. And this was even done in 2005 when the Children's Amendment Bill, which is now the 2005 Children's Act of 38, where the need for social workers was identified. However, it looked like we continue to face the challenge. So we have redone the capacity assessment, and a sector strategy has been developed and even presented, at National Treasury to bid for more money so that we can employ social workers, because currently we've got a number of almost 9,000 social workers that are unemployed. And unemployment of social workers is not only the challenge of the Department of Social Development. We know the Department of Basic Education is also challenged with that, especially when we look in the angle of prevention, which I'm emphasizing that we need to strengthen, because we've got the integrated school health program, which should identify those children at risk very early and channel them to appropriate services. But there is shortage of social workers even within the Department of Education. So it is really where now, as the department, working with the other sector departments, we developed this sector strategy, which has been presented to National Treasury for the bid, and that was already presented on the 28th of July 2022. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Philander, are you happy with that input?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honourable Bakufos, good morning.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to everyone. I really welcome the input by Dr. Luyanda. First, I would like to know financially wise, the financial implication, given that the bill proposes the care of migrant children or children of asylum seekers. What will be the financial implication of this, and how will these amendments affect the provinces? That's my first question, Chairperson. And the second one, when we come to the amendments to Section 1, while I agree with this definition of offense, however, I want to check what the provisions are there as set in the number of children that have been offended by COVID-19, and as a result, the numbers of child-headed households created and the support that will be given to them. And the last question is on amendment to Section 150. What happens if the family member who is able to take care of the child lives in another town that will be far from the child's school and immediate friends? How is the interest of the child priorities? And I want to know also if there is a plan to recruit social workers. Remember, we have a lot of graduates who's not working. I would like to know what is your plan to recruit them, because really we have a shortage of social workers. I would like to ask the last question, last question. There is an incident, through you, Chairperson, that there was a child who was adopted by the family members 2015, but they never received any foster care support, because they applied, and when they go to child welfare, they will be told that no, the social workers who was handling this is no longer here. This case will be given to the other one, but it continues until the parents just get fed up. They are no longer bothering them. Given I want to understand, because some of the people doesn't have means to feed or take the child to school, but fortunately these parents manage, because the child now is in grade 10, if it's not grade 11. But that I would like to have Ilanduka input from your side, or a clear answer from you, because this was done by the child welfare. I remember it's your partner. So, or I may say these are the stakeholders that is used by this by the department to support our communities. what will be done. And I would like to give the full land information after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure. Is that lengthy input, honourable member, but I hope the officials are ready to provide you with some answers.
Thank you, honourable member. I think when you walked in, I already introduced myself, so let me reintroduce myself. So sorry, Honourable Chair, for not introducing myself when I was giving the input after the presentation. My name is Nelly Swatsekiso. I am from the National Department of Social Development, responsible for child protection services, which amongst includes a foster care. I just want to respond and also seek clarity from you, Honourable Member. When you speak of orphans that are created by COVID, I think it's one of the difficulties for us as social workers. I will talk now as a social worker, though I'm at national. Because when parents die, you don't really know what is the cause of death for those children. So we use the word orphans to say we are rendering services to all children that are orphaned. But as Advocate Mchochisa was indicating that not all orphaned children might be in need of care and protection, because the purpose for foster care is to actually provide services to those children that have been, abused, neglected, and we know that there's a lot of neglect that is happening in our environments. But we also say that removal of a child into alternative placement should be the last resort. Hence, we say, let's strengthen the prevention and early intervention services. Build the capacity of that family to take care of that child. If it's an orphan child, we say that, yes, you can still go to a social workers, because with these child protection units that we're talking about, it will be fully resourced because it will have all the categories of social service practitioners, so that those that need statutory services, meaning foster care, adoption, placement in child and youth care centers, meaning children's home, they are moved to that. Those that need prevention and early interventions like life skills or even taken to drug rehabilitation centers, those children are diverted into, because the child protection unit, it's a comprehensive, broader unit with the sub-branches within it. Hence, we say it must be fully resourced and have social service practitioners, meaning we need the social auxiliary workers, we need the child and youth care workers, so that they can even supervise these children that are placed in foster care, those child and youth care workers. So the orphans that we address all the orphans. So it's important that communities be our eyes and ears, so that they can say that household, there are children that are orphaned, so that they can be channeled into services, and assessment is going to be done, to look at the circumstances of that particular family. The plan to recruit social workers, I indicated that we have developed the sector strategy, because we know that, as I indicated, around 9,000 social workers are unemployed, whom we actually put these social workers through our scholarship as DSD when we are trying to bridge the gap that was identified in 2005, that we need so many social workers. So that sector strategy, it has been presented to National Treasury, and we are really hoping that we will get the money, as they did give the money for the scholarship. So we are hoping that they will also get the money to employ these social workers. But we must know that social workers alone, they cannot do this work. We need social auxiliary workers, child and youth care workers. But our community development, when they do household profile, they must help us to identify the vulnerable household, so that we give them the basket of services. You made a specific case of 2015, which I think the province will respond to. But I wanted to make a distinction between adoption and foster care, because as a foster parent, you are not a guardian. But when you are an adoptive parent, when you have adopted a child, you become a guardian. So when you are a guardian, you don't go for foster care, because you are eliminated from the foster care system. But we are saying that services are there. This top-up grant that we're talking about, it's there to look after orphans who are being cared by those caregivers that says, I'm here to provide the support. So the top-up grant is basically the child support grant plus the additional amount, which makes 720. So children that are orphaned and not neglected, not abused, because we are also aware that within family members, children do get abused. So we should be very careful when we speak about the child protection system, units, that they are there to monitor these children and ensure that there's a safety net for all children within our communities. Thank you, Honorable Member. I will give over to the province. Mr. Charles Jordan, you can respond to this 2015 case.
No, thank you, Sis. Honourable Member, yes. I think if we look at the financial implications for the Western Cape, we've just been informed that Treasury of the province is going to give us additional funding for our salaries. So for this financial year, 25 million rand was cut from our budget for salaries, which put us in a very peculiar position that we could not fill social worker posts. We have, in the meantime, advertised about 60 social worker posts and auxiliary workers as a first round. And if we get more financial money from Treasury, I don't know what's the amount, they will tell us very soon, then we will continue by filling those positions. So Sister Naliso has been very correct that our focus will also be more now on preventative and early work, specifically when it comes to the family where a child is going to be placed or the circumstances. If I look at the question you ask about what happens if a child stays in the town and the family is in a different town, that is something that the social worker, when they do the assessment and support the family and strengthen the family and the child, they need to look at what is going to be the best interest of the child. And the court will make a final decision on that if need to be. So we will rely on the specialized social worker to give that advice to the family, the strength, and to look what's the best interest of the child. So it depends on case to case. Some cases, the child probably would have to go to that town if it's the best interest of the town, or alternatively, then they've got to look at other family. But we try and avoid, we do not want children really, and this is our position, placing a child in a children's center, child and youth care center, must be the last option. We rather want the child to be placed by family or adopted, or then not adopted, then in a foster care system, where they can be the loving family, where there's people, and it's easier for us to support. In a child and youth care center, it's not a family environment as we always sometimes want to, but that's where a lot of children sometimes got no choice but to land up if there's no other option. So that must be the last option for us. Honourable Member, on the case of the family not receiving foster care grants, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that case, but I would appreciate it if you could give us the details, because I would like to follow this up with my team to see why these parents have not received foster care grants in 2015. That is something very wrong going on there. So I would love to get the details so we can investigate. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Windvogel, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, everyone. Chair, I welcome the presentation or briefing by the NCOP and National on the Children's Amendments Bill. With regards to Amendment 156, subsection 1, I just want to check what provisions are there to support children without birth certificates and who are in care of, let's say, struggling family members of grandparents. Especially if you look at African culture, the grandparents were always looking, they are the people looking after these children. So I just want that on that section. And then also on, I think, Amendment 157. Yeah, while the option of adoption is welcome, I would like to know the role or involvement of the family members on this. Are they given the option of first, yeah, are they giving the option or I just want to check, do the family have first option to the children? Or does it, the whole of, does the court decide where to? So I just want to check that. And then I'm happy to hear from member Neliswa Tekiso. She mentioned that, I'm not sure if it was advocate who mentioned it, there is a type of working, of they are busy working, build a working relationship with the Department of Justice. But I also think it's important to build that relationship also with Home Affairs, because I really want to understand the timeline. When the process starts, when does it stop? Because that's why we are sitting with a problem with people not having assistance for more than 4 or 5 years. And not all our parents or foster parents or people who really care do have that or are so like financial independent to look after the children. And it's our duty to make sure that we put those structures or processes in place to assist our children. Then lastly, Chair, I didn't hear anything about monitoring. For me, it's so much important that we do have a monitoring system in place so that we make sure that the money are used for that purpose. I just want to check, do we have, perhaps I miss it somehow, how? Do we have a monitoring system in place? I like to say that not everything of the apartheid system was bad. We can take some of those good practices and implement it in our new democratic society yeah. So for me, is in those days, you know, your social workers will be, or if you receive a pension, they are there. They are hands-on to make sure the money are used for that purpose. So I really want to understand, do we have such a system in place? Because, you know, these days people are sitting in taverns with the money of the children. The children is with granny. The granny is not receiving the money. But I'm just making an example, but I hope you understand where I'm moving to. Yeah, I think I will park there, Chair. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The big question is now, who's going to respond to that?
Thank you, Honourable Member. For the adoption matter, I've got my colleague online, Kinsey Raisibe. Honourable Chair, through you, I will invite her to come in so that she can speak lengthily on the issue of adoption, which I know is quite a contentious issue, but she will talk on that. But just to give you assurance, as the Department of Social Development now, we are mandated to render adoption services for free to make it accessible. But Mayor Raisibe will talk more on prioritization of family members. In terms of building relationships with the Department of Justice and Home Affairs, to be specific, because we actually have a huge challenge countrywide in relation to delays of the issuing of an abridged birth certificates, which now result into backlogs. We are in constant engagement with the Department of Home Affairs, and our legal services has also committed to engage the legal services of the Department of Home Affairs so that they understand the implication. And I also want to indicate, Honourable Member, that at national, we also have what we call an intersectoral committee, which means we've got the chief magistrate, we've got SASSA, we've got Home Affairs when they attend, because they are not attending as much as we would like them to attend. But the Department of Justice, we've got this very strong relationship with them where we elevate matters that are experienced from each province. And we see by issuing of those circulars which persuade, because we have to be mindful of the judicial independence when it comes to issues of courts. So the National Steering Committee, led by the National Chairperson of the Subcommittee for Family Magistrates, drives the process of ensuring that unnecessary delays are dealt with, by courts. The reason we are saying it's important that courts apply Section 186, it's because Section 186, Honorable Member, it's the long-term placement. We say that this child can stay up until the age of 18 years because there are no possibilities of reunifying this child. Actually, in terms of the clause, it will be the clause 14, Honorable Member. We are saying that we need to strengthen the implementation of this section because the judiciary is reluctant to implement this section across the country. But we've got a best practice in Mpumalanga. They are court orders for children in foster care. It's the long-term placement. But there are monitoring systems which were there even in the Principal Act, because we were saying in the Principal Act that once every 2 years there must be monitoring. But now with this bill, we are saying that it must be done annually. So courts have got the responsibility to issue a supervision order as they are giving that order of foster care to say, please come back. We want to know what is happening in this child. So that's one thing that now our social workers have to make sure that they monitor very closely in terms of their reports. But the monitoring itself, it can be done by a social auxiliary worker, not necessarily so that a social worker deals with therapeutic programs and also take care of this child in terms of emotional development. Can I invite Honorable Chair, Sis Kinsey, can you come through in response to involvement of families and prioritization of families when it comes to adoption? Sis Kinsey, did we?
Good, yes. Good morning all, Chair, honorable members. My name is Kinsey Rasibise from National Department of Social Development, responsible social work policy manager, responsible for inter-country adoptions. When it comes to adoption, when the child is adoptable, found to be adoptable, all what we start doing, social workers, is to look within the families before consideration can be made to communities. We start first by looking at the family, immediate family. If on the side, either on the side of the paternal or the maternal, but family is being prioritized. If chances are very slim for family preservation, for avoiding the adoption, but if it comes to a push that the child has to be adopted, look at the adoptability first, and then the child can be adopted nationally before consideration can be made. And one other thing that we emphasize is to ensure that children are not placed in the CYCC. Children must be adopted nationally. That's the consideration for adoption. Family preservation first, and then looking into national adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Van Vogel. You're okay with the input. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Now, I'm not even going to labor the issue. I made a couple of points, but there will be public hearing sessions and other sessions where we could still give some more and more input. I'm going to do something of the extraordinary, not customary for this meeting necessarily, but members of the public, you will have your opportunity, but if you want to give a short input, 2 minute, 2 minute, 2 minute, I got my watch with me, I can time you. But if you want to, if you wish to, do you want to give some input quickly? Stand up and your name and surname, the organization you represent, then we give you the opportunity. I would love you to come nearer to a mic. The one here in front will do. Whoa, whoa! Ah, false.
Oh my gosh.
She missed the step. I hope she didn't hurt herself. But, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Member Fry for the lady some water, please. And this bottle is full. Take a sip of water, please. Let the lady first take a sip of water. And a deep breath. Okay, ma'am, you may sit down and Member Fry, just show the lady which button to press.
Pen? No pen.
That's fine.
Okay.
Dar say thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Didn't look at the step.
Yeah.
Because I'm not coming
It
often
could have been
here.
much worse. Luckily not.
I'm Nobanzi Ndamoy, coming from Worcester, principal of Zanokanyo Preschool and ECD. I just have a little input about the social worker and the foster children. Often we are getting those kids, those babies from 0 months to 6 years. And my concern is we are struggling with birth certificates with them. And I'm just hearing now also that the Western Cape Finance Department was in the right, but yes, really our parents, those who have been foster mothers of these children, it's a long time they are not getting any subsidy, and any child, foster grandchild, and you can see the child come out from abused family. You can notice and see the child, they are not even clothes. What I want to know, when they see that child, is there not any, maybe those, what can I say, that any money to go, let the mother to go and buy maybe some clothes for the children, and we are really suffering from ECDs because sometimes we are collecting from the parents, inviting parents meeting because we see the situation of the child. But the most important one, is there anything which they can do, because we are struggling with the birth certificates, even because at the centers it's where we develop the child in totally, trying to assist the child before she attends to go to school. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Anyone else of the group? All of you from the Worcester area?
Yes, we are coming from Worcester.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for being in town. But you love coming to Cape Town anyway, eh? Yeah. Okay, no one else? Okay. Ma'am, thank you so much. You may continue sitting there. I don't want you to use a step again and that sort of thing. But I'm not going to ask you to respond to that. Maybe you want to give a short response, but I don't think it's necessary. I think you note the issue with regard to the birth certificates. You mentioned it before as a problem, as an obstacle anyway. As long as we capture all of those issues as part of the comments raised this morning. On that note, no one else from the members? Member Frey, you're covered. Okay, thank you. I think on...
I'm covered.
Yeah, thank you. I think at this point in time, due to the fact that there will be more input and issues for discussion and so forth, I think I'm going to close it here now. There's no need for us to continue. Maybe with the national officials for you to see how we're going to deal with the bill from here onwards and to give your input. I would advise you just to sit for 5 minutes if you're okay with that. Maybe our provincial officials as well. Members of the public, if you want to go and to have a cup of tea, I can ask the official to take you down to the section where you can enjoy a nice cup of tea, or you can wait as well to see how we're going to take the bill forward and then move with us for a cup of tea. And I hope there is a cook sister and something else as well for us. Thank you. Let us get into it immediately. I think the issue is the way forward, the next step. And I think for us, very importantly, is the issue with regard to public hearings, public participation, and that sort of thing. That our national counterpart knows that we're dealing with the bill also in a very appropriate manner, and that sort of thing. And we propose the NCOP process, I believe, from our administration, and I concur with that. The dates, the 10th of October. Mr. Daza, you and the Secretariat will have to help me if I'm correct, to the 14th, and to have about 4 sessions during that period of time. I'm not so sure. The administration will have to say to me any 3 or 4 sessions for us, 1 in Cape Town and maybe 3 some other areas of the Western Cape. If that is that would be sufficient. I'm not. Ms. Jamke, please help in that regard.
Thank you, Chair. I think the committee still need to decide on the number of public hearings. So maybe the department, you can excuse, the committee will communicate the dates with the national department.
Well, we communicate the dates with the national department. Okay. But that is going to happen. Are you okay that we forward the dates, the official dates to you, and where we're going to be, and that sort of thing?
We need them there, Chair. It's a must, they must be there.
They must be there. But that is why I don't want the department just to leave. I want them to understand. We would love to do the public hearings with you. But it's fine, you will receive the necessary input in that respect. And some of our provincial officials will be present as well. Okay, let's, Mr. Daza, just the national officials and the public, take them to this tea session area, please. And I will come and join you now.
We will communicate the dates for the public hearings on time. Sorry. After this meeting, I will send an email. Yes. That is why I'm trying
what is their time frames? Is it more or less the same time period?
Yes.
Phew. But that's quick. Okay.
For us, it's in person.
Virtually is actually much quicker and that sort of thing. But it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it's one person from national, because when we go to the members of the public, the members are not really understanding much of they cannot explain to the members of the public. And we have NGOs that are very active here, especially on this issue of foster care and.
Yeah, in Cape Town, it's a big issue. Actually, the whole of the Western Cape. My, no, we can finish quickly. But my friend, it was very good to see you. I don't know if my face is familiar for you. I met you. Yeah, that's right. Now I remember. Yeah. Thank you so much. Members, I'm not going to ask from the members. Our members must unfortunately stay behind. They still want to chat.
So you mentioned you must say that the PO must assist in the hearings. Members must identify the dates. How must we advertise?
Yeah, no problem.
All those things that are here, because they need to be on record. Number of public hearings, area.
Honourable members, Honourable Wendy Philander, are you still with us?
I am, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Look, I don't want to give a break of 10 minutes and that sort of thing, then our attention is immediately divided. I want us to get through the whole process right now, finalize everything, our recommendations and that sort of thing, then we're done. When we walk out of here, we know we release from the whole meeting. Look, it's very, very important for us to look at the way forward. And one issue, we should advise on the stakeholders to be invited to the public hearings. The administration needs to assist with that. And then the Western Cape Provincial Parliament Public Education and Outreach section must assist with the outreaches. I think that is very important. And to assist our committee in this process, including informing the public about the upcoming public hearings and assist in inviting these stakeholders. I think that is a crucial matter, a crucial issue for us to table today. And then we need to look at the dates. We talk about the 10th to the 14th of October. It's a short period of time, but before our annual reports and that sort of thing, I want to handle this off. We can do this within a time span of 4 or 5 days. A meeting in the morning somewhere, a meeting in the afternoon, that sort of thing, drive from the one area to the other very briefly, very quickly. We need to decide on a meeting for Cape Town. I think Cape Town is very important. We must have a meeting in Cape Town. And then looking at the more bigger centres, like, for instance, Stellenbosch, like, for instance, Caledon, like, for instance, Worcester, something like that. We don't need to do the whole province. We will not be able to do the whole province, but even invite surrounding towns and areas to a specific town. If it is Worcester, you invite the Dorans, you invite Robertson, you invite other areas around Worcester. I can't get to the other names now. I'm just thinking of Robertson. And
Chairperson.
Wendy, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. My next question was going to be in terms of areas as well as how it will be publicized and where it will be publicized. Chairperson, can I make a suggestion? One would have loved to crisscross the province because this is an issue across the province, but in terms of time, we won't be able to. But can we perhaps ask the procedural officer to gather the data for us in terms of the areas that we wanted to focus on in terms of data and case studies, that we know that our focus will be on the correct areas. Will that perhaps be possible, Chair?
The administration is of the opinion they might not have all the time at their disposal to do that. But I think the department do have an idea of the crisis towns, the crisis areas around us. I don't think that's a big ask. We can ask the Department of Social Development to assist in that regard. I think that can be done to ask our department. But I think the other most important issue for us is to look at the other towns, the other areas for the administration to go and stick out its feelers and work around that already. My clear suggestion, number one, is on what Honourable Wendy Philander have indicated, that we do ask the department. That is not a problem for me. Number two is we have Cape Town, and then we need 3 other areas around Cape Town for such public hearings. We need to officially give that indication to the administration. Baku Vos, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I agree with you. Cape Town also is in need, but we have this deep rural whereby the people are struggling a lot to get information. I think we must look at that also. As you indicated, you know, when we go to Worcester, it's easy for Langapek, which is over Robertson and other areas, to go to Worcester, and Ceres. They can go there, including Dragonstein and Stellenbosch, you see. And that's my suggestion. And then we go to Southern Cape. In Southern Cape, it's easy for Ilando Overpack also to go there, Nelando. I mean, okay, so we can take only Southern Cape, and then Central Karoo. I'm too worried about the Central Karoo too, because we saw a lot of things when we were in Central Karoo.
Which town in Central?
Morrisburg, Prince Albert, yeah, and other surrounding areas.
Just to add, perhaps, Chair, what we need to do is to identify 1 town per region. And then we invite the other smaller towns of that region to, let's say if you are going to Overberg, we take Caledon. The other towns can come into Caledon, try to organize. If we Worcester, it's Boland. If Cape Town, then the surrounding of Cape Town. Southern Cape, you take George, perhaps. George is the middle town of the Southern Cape.
George or Oudtshoorn.
Yeah, George is actually the middle town of the Southern Cape. Yeah. And if then it's the Karoo, then it's only the left with the Karoo and the west coast. So what I'm trying to say is let's look into the regions, 1 town per region, because of time.
Let the administration do have an idea now, a much clearer idea, and they can work around that, and they could come back to us with the framework.
I don't know if I can have something to say, Chair, through you. When it comes into NCOP, we are running within the time frames. There's a 6-week cycle there. There is no time to do research. There is no time to do anything. What we need to get out of this meeting is the areas where members want to have public hearings and the dates, because now we are going to an annual report, which is as from the 21st of October. Social Development Annual Report is sitting, and it's going to be difficult for members to be out of the metro. So I was hoping that before we leave this meeting, we'll have the areas, because the advert is ready already. I just need to put the dates and the places so that we can start the process. We still need to advertise. We want members to advise us as to where must we advertise, which newspapers, which areas. Otherwise, we are going to miss the deadline, which is now the negotiating mandate. We still need to have the provincial negotiating mandate before we submit it at national. So I think the place that the areas members have identified, Overberg, which is, it will be Caledon, Worcester, and on the Boland side, George, which is Southern Cape, and Karoo, which is Beaufort West, which is the central. Now I will check on the dates for that, because as from that week, 26th to the 30th is the cluster visit. From there is that week of the 3rd to the 3rd of October, I think until the 7th. We need to advertise to put on the newspapers, to secure the space on the newspapers. Then I was thinking that week of the 10th to the 14th of October, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen because it seems as if the annual report for the Standing Committee on Premier is on the 11th of October. So we have the 10th, which is Monday, it's constituencies. Maybe members can take that Monday and have a public hearing here in the chamber on Monday, the 10th. Then the 11th is the annual report for the Premier, Standing Committee on Premier. I'm not sure how we are going to work around these dates. The 13th is open, which is on Thursday. There is no meeting of our cluster on Thursday. And again, 14th of October is the Standing Committee on Education. Annual reports time, it's a busy period, but we also need to make sure that we accommodate this bill. Otherwise, members, we will not be able to submit our mandate to the NCOP. What I need now, I think it's also you identify the areas. I also need the newspapers. Which newspapers? Because all this information need to be in our minutes. In case this piece of legislation is challenged in court, the court it's going to look at what was discussed in this meeting. Thank you.
Well, I think with regard to the newspapers, the court's mainly looking at the main line. Just a second. Yeah, the mainline newspapers. It's obviously the Burger, obviously the Argus, obviously the... Yes, Burger and Cape Argus.
Chairperson?
For Wendy, please, you may.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, perhaps I just missed out in terms of the Cape Winelands area. Which town did we identify there? And also, Chair, is it possible for us to also, if we talk about the rural part of the province, if it's possible to put a placement in the zone as well?
That's a good one, yes. Most of the rural areas that side, outside of Cape Town, read the Son. They don't read the Burger, they don't read the Argus or Cape Times.
Chairperson is Cape Argus, it's Burger, it's Son.
Yes.
And News 24.
Is it the newspaper?
And we can...
Oh, maybe in two main
Which one?
newspapers, which is, I don't know whether it's Cape
And Burger, they had the mainstream newspapers.
There's another one.
And Vukani.
Vukani.
Yeah.
Then Son.
Yeah, Son and Vukani.
Okay, let me put it on record, members. What I've captured here, we have the Son, which is, I believe, it's a community newspaper.
Yes.
Is it a community? Then we have Vukani, which is a community newspaper in Xhosa. Then we have two mainstream newspapers, which is Cape Argus and the Burger.
Yes.
The Burger.
Then we are covered to a large extent.
Then the other, the advert will also be on all our platform, which is social media. We will send notification to municipalities to make sure that people are getting the message.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then I think Honorable Wendy Philander asked about a town, the towns we're going to. Wendy? Okay, Cape Winelands, Worcester. Yeah. And George, Karoo, and Overberg. Caledon. West Coast, we can invite to the Cape Town based, like the Worcester people drive here as well. We won't be able to touch base on each and every town, so to speak. Okay, I think we are covered regarding that. And then one critical issue, the committee needs to make resolutions on the bill. Are we doing it? Can we do it now already, or must we do it as we do the meetings with the public?
It will be, everything else, Chair, will be done after the public hearings.
After the public hearings.
Yes.
Okay. Got that. Then I need to understand this one before closing down. We are nearly there. The committee should note that the negotiating mandates on the Children's Amendment Bill at the NCOP is Tuesday, the 25th of October. I think the administration knows.
Yes, but I think they also mentioned it seems as if now it will be the 1st of November.
No, November. 1st of November is coming. I will get to 1st of
Yes.
November. We note the 25th of October. The administration should note that and guide us around it. This means that the committee needs to deliberate on its provincial negotiating mandate before this date and submit it to the NCOP. So we need to, that is also a short time frame. Mr. Daza and you, the administration, will have to get back to me with regard to that. It's important for me to table it at this meeting. And then the issue you referred to, the 1st of November, the date for the final mandate at the NCOP for this bill is Tuesday, the 1st of November, 2022. And the committee, and then with a rider to that, the committee needs to adhere to these dates.
Yes.
Okay. So we note that. Mr. Daza, I see you not.
Chairperson,
Wendy?
Chairperson, if you allow me, it's Member Gillian.
Hello, Member Gillian.
Yes, at the negotiating meeting, we would really love if the chairperson can be part of that meeting, because we don't want just administration to be there or some of your members with you, so that we can receive the provincial negotiating mandate on the 1st of November. If you can just record that.
Yeah, that is, Member Gillian, that is not the problem. Thank you so much. Just give me 1 second just to ask Member Gillian, we haven't seen each other in many moons. How are you, Honourable Member?
She joined us to the public hearings. She's new.
You are muted. We can't hear you. You are muted.
Member Plato, I am much better. I was sick for the last couple of months, but I'm getting there. That's why I'm still busy working virtually.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. And all of the best with the health.
Thank you.
To see you. Thank you. Okay. Can we then, on that note, administration, can we then conclude this meeting? We note all the issues the administration should do and the time frames we got. We had given guidance.
Anything from Mr.
Mr.
Daza?
Daza, you are okay with the processes we put in place so far? Okay, he's okay. Honorable Bakufos, anything? Lastly, from your side? Windvogel, Honorable Member, you're okay, covered? Honorable Fry, you're okay? Wendy, you're okay. Can I close the meeting?
Happiness, thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
From PO.
Yeah, but what?
Yes. Okay, I close the meeting, Chair.
We do it officially again. The administration is of the opinion, I must say loudly, that we close the meeting. Thank you.
Goodbye, Chair.